Whenever we talk about quarterbacks, it is always great to have Christy Freud in the house. Christy Freud, quarterbacks analyst and expert. Let's talk about Zach Wilson a little bit. How would you assess his performance last season?
I think it was a little bit up and down, but I think a lot of it was rookie growing pains. And while the Jets did do a decent bit to try to help him the year that they drafted him. I mean, when a team is going through a rebuild like this and has so many holes, it's impossible to be an overnight success. And I think there's a lot of quarterbacks that are drafted between picks 1 and 5, and people say, hey, well, this guy was really good in college. He's a first round pick. He's got to be able to bring it this year. You succeed this year or you're no good. And that's simply not the case. I think that quarterbacks should be able to sit more. And I think that really looking at last season, that maybe it would have benefited Zach Wilson to sit. But then from time to time, you would see flashes of the guy that was at BYU, the player that had an elite level of mental processing, really good ball placement, and the ability to make these almost impossible throws into tight windows, which is something that was really interesting that I talked to his dad about ahead of the draft, whenever he got drafted, is this weird ability that has to kind of mimic things that he sees on film. So he had an iPad that had all this Joe Burrow film downloaded on it, and he would sit there and try to mimic it. And there's actually a point in time, you go look at the overtime win over the Titans, that really long pass to Corey Davis where he looks like he's covered. I've actually spoken to Zach about this before. It was a different thing, but he watched the Joe Burrow film to specifically learn that aspect of knowing when a receiver looks covered but could actually be open if you throw this ball a certain way. So it's really neat to watch how that, just these very specific details of his game have translated to the NFL.
How unusual is that? I don't know that I've ever heard of that before.
Yeah, I think that it's a rare ability that some quarterbacks have. His dad said that even when it came to like shooting basketball hoops and watching techniques on YouTube, since he was a little kid, he's noticed it. So I think that it's just kind of a gift that he has. I think there's a lot of quarterbacks that are generational talents that have a gift like that. And it's something that I think sets him apart and is really going to help him grow. I mean, there's no getting past the rookie transition. There's no getting past having to work through a bad team and go through the rebuild with them and work through your own things with them. But I think that he has enough it factor and enough things that are special just to his game that are really going to help him grow.
I know that fans around this area, being in New York, are really excited when OTAs begin and we get later into the summer and he starts to work with some of the new draft picks that were brought into the team. And Sauce Gardner's the splashy pick. You know, as a corner, everybody's thinking, oh, could this be the next Darrelle Revis? But, you know, as you've noted, they really did pick up a number of picks that will benefit them offensively. How important is that going to be, and who's going to be important in just continuing Zach Wilson's development?
Yeah, Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State is huge. I think that Zach Wilson needed some more weapons. This is a guy who's really speedy, really athletic, ran a 4.38 40 time at the combine that put a lot of people on notice. This was a really deep wide receivers class, which helped a lot of teams. And some people considered this guy to be the best. And so the Jets definitely get a really good weapon in him. And then you look at Breece Hall, the Iowa State offense. I mean, it's not uncommon, but it's not super common either to see an offense that is in college that is entirely tailored to a running back. And that speaks to his versatility and the level of success that he had. I mean, he's a guy that can catch passes out of the backfield. He can run it for you, really was the star of the show there and looks to transition well over here. So I think that they did a good job. They drafted a tight end, a little bit more of a developmental guy, but that kind of marks this big overhaul of the tight end room as a whole. And so I think that the Jets are finally starting to make complete transitions at certain positions and that it's only a matter of time. It might still not be this year, but they have the pieces in place to be a team that can be really good. And they've started to lay a good foundation for that.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear Robert Saleh say, hey, listen, guys, this is going to take a couple of years, right? Everybody wants these instant results. It might be 3 years until we can get these players developed. And, you know, what have you done for me lately, league? I feel like a lot of times teams don't have that luxury. They want these draft picks to come in and be able to contribute right away. And so to hear him kind of say like, hey, listen, I think we did an okay job draft wise, but we need to pump the brakes and see how these guys develop was really a word of caution to a fan base that is just so desperate to have them be good. Zach Wilson is such a huge part of that moving forward. And this is going to be a big season for him coming up. I mean, what specifically do you think he needs to do better? What should we look to see from him this upcoming season?
Well, I think that Zach Wilson just needs to calm down and play football. And I think that part of that's him. And I think that part of that is the transition itself. I mean, this is a hard situation to go into, but if you look at his tape from BYU, this is a player that's used to running around some, used to doing a lot of things off platform, used to making a lot of really big plays. You can't always just go into the NFL and do that. There's a time and place for some of those things, but I think he just needs to settle in, take some of the easy stuff, not try to force anything. And like I said, these are all common rookie mistakes. This is not a Zach Wilson specific thing. This is not something that he can't grow out of. But I think that he did show flashes. And I think that over time, the game in general just starts to slow down for quarterbacks. So I think between this being the second year of the Jets laying some added foundation, some things to help him becoming a better team as a whole, and then him getting better mentally and learning more and seeing more and just being in the NFL longer, I think that naturally he's going to take a step. And to be honest, this could be a breakout season for him.
Great stuff from Christy Ford. Christy, thanks.